Corundas to Pica Poco Kitchen. Today we're making homemade corundas. Vámonos! Today let me take you to Michoacán, the home of the Purépecha, west central Mexico. It is 168 miles away from Mexico City. On one side the Pacific Ocean, on the other the Sierra Madre, and on the other the Paricutin volcano. Among its beauty, you can find there the Monarch Butterfly Biosphere Reserve, which is a natural wonder. The most popular cities are Morelia, Pátzcuaro, Uruapan. Michoacán is known to be an agricultural state. Most of the avocados you eat today come from there. They also grow corn, amazing strawberries, and other tropical fruits. Michoacán gifts us with amazing gastronomical treasures, like carnitas. But today, I'm digging deeper into the Purépecha roots and I bring to you corundas. Corundas are corn tamales. They traditionally are served as Atapakua with sauce green or red and a little bit of cheese. Nowadays, people stuff them with veggies or serve them with pork stew. I had to do some adaptation to the traditional recipe because the traditional way to make them is by wrapping them with Carrizo leaf or reed leaf. And that gives them their very peculiar triangular shape. I couldn't get my hands on that. So I'm giving you an option of using plantain leaves, which I know they're more available to everybody out there since you can find them in the supermarket at the freezer section, in your international section of the freezer. So I'm going to teach you how to work that, how to cut it into the shape and make as close as we can get. If wherever you live you have access to reed leaves, by all means use that. Just be careful and make sure that the one that you're using is the right one. Corundas are simple tamales, but they don't come short in flavor. So let's get to it. These are the plantain leaves that you can find in your regular supermarket in the freezer section. I'm going to show you how to prep them in order to use them to make these tamales. While they're still slightly frozen, I carefully separate each piece. It's going to depend on whatever brand you get on how they come. Sometimes you can get one very long piece. While I do that, let me tell you about the actual plant that is used to make these tamales. This is the giant reed, also Carrizo cane, Carrizo plant, or Spanish reed. As you can see, it has a very stiff and hollow cane-like stalk, which gives it the nickname of Mexican bamboo. And please, before you use any plant that you find in the wild for consumption, make sure to do your research. So to be certain, go to an international market and try to find those leaves there. And to make sure my leaves are clean, I give them a bath with boiling water and let them sit there until the water is cool to touch. Then I drain them and sometimes rinse them once more, then pat them dry with your kitchen towel. Let's move on to make the masa. For that, I have 1 cup of masa harina. This is the one that I like to use. And I'm gonna hydrate it with 1 cup of warm water. Since the harina for tamales is finer than the one for tortillas, your masa is gonna hydrate faster, so it's gonna require less water. Also, if you want to make your masa tastier from the start, you can hydrate it with chicken broth. I'm gonna add some later, but for now, I'll start with just plain water. When you have a uniform dough, cover it up with plastic or a wet kitchen towel and let it sit. In my mixer, I'm gonna whisk 1 cup of lard with the whisk attachment, but of course you can use a handheld machine. Don't stop until it looks like frosting. Let's go back to the leaves. This is how they look after their warm bath. Don't forget to pat them dry. And it is normal to see some dirt come out of them. They are part of nature. You will normally get one blade of the leaf where you can even see the midrib right there. Naturally, the leaves have a laminated structure, which we're gonna take to our advantage. I'm gonna tear this piece right here that was already broken, but don't worry, I will be separating this piece lamina by lamina to end up with these long strips that I will be using in case I need to wrap or tie some of the tamales. With the rest of the leaf, I'm gonna cut thicker strips that I'll use to wrap the tamales. Fold the leaf the way you will once you get the masa to see more or less what size the corundas are going to be and then adjust. Get your leaves ready and set them aside. I can tell you that this amount of dough that I made was enough to make 10 corundas. And for the rest of your leaves, pat them dry, stack them up, fit them into a Ziploc bag, put them in your freezer, and use them for another time. And just like for many other tamal recipes, I will be introducing the lard little by little into my masa. I've seen some people that mix the harina with the water or broth and the lard at the same time, and I don't see why that would make any difference. So feel free to do it, just make sure to whisk your lard first. Once I'm done fully incorporating the lard into the masa, I'll be adding my chicken broth. The amount of chicken broth is going to depend on how smooth or liquid you like your masa to be. For this case, half a cup of the chicken broth was more than enough. The consistency that I'm looking for is the one of a thick batter. Before I'm done mixing, I'm gonna add salt. I recommend starting with 1 tablespoon of salt. That might sound a lot, but since we're gonna be steaming, the steaming process takes away the flavor. So make sure to test and it has to taste salty. I'm also gonna add 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder. Now give it one final whisk. And to know if your masa is ready to make the tamales, you can use the old tia hack. And by old, I mean the hack, not the tia. This tia is still young at heart. Take a little dollop of your masa and drop it into cold water. If it floats, your masa is ready. And now let's assemble. Since they have no filling, I find this to be the easiest tamales to make. So I'm going to be helping myself with a cookie scoop. This is not the biggest one I have, it's a regular size. And I am going to scoop 1.5 of the masa into my leaf, right at the end and the thickest part of the leaf. Now carefully, but not too carefully, I'm going to wrap around the masa, making a triangular shape. This might take a little bit of practice, but it is really not that difficult. You can use the excess of the leaf to fold inside, but if you find trouble doing that, remember we have all those strips, so use them if you need to wrap and tie your tamales. And these are not the only shape that corundas have. Sometimes they make them like a pyramid, and sometimes they just wrap around the masa and they end up looking like a pentagon, which I believe they call stars. So even if you mess up, you end up with a nice corunda. There are no rules to follow. To cook them, I'll use my pressure cooker with the steam attachment and water at the bottom. Since they're completely wrapped, I won't be very meticulous on how to fit them in. But if you want to be extra careful, you can place a flat leaf at the bottom. I'll cook them for 30 minutes with natural pressure release, then cover them up and let them sit for at least 10 minutes. If you're cooking them in your stove, probably go between 50 to 60 minutes, making sure your water levels are consistent, and also let them rest once they're done with a lid on for 10 to 15 minutes. Today I won't be making Atapakua to serve my corundas. I can do that for another video if you're interested to see that kind of stew. I'm just gonna be doing a simple sauce and plating. So for 3 of them, I'll be serving them with mole and cheese, and the other 3 I'll serve with red salsa, which is the same red sauce that I used to serve my guasontle patties from last video. I also have a video on how to make mole yourself if you're interested. And here we have them. My favorite way to have them is with a little bit of mole. Maybe not traditional, but I can say no to mole. If you want to make them dinner, serve them with some pork in green salsa or red salsa, however you prefer, and you're in for a nice dinner. So let's give them a try. This is a simple tamal, but no matter how you serve it and whichever sauce you choose, the corn will keep its protagonism. It's still there, it's present, and the texture is fantastic. The leaves help the masa keep some of the moisture, which gives it this soft but spongy texture. They go perfect with any flavor that you want to add on. And if you want to make them filled with veggies, go ahead and do it. Some people like to add carrots in them. So it's another way for you to experiment and another recipe from the many different kinds of tamales that we have in Mexico. Another one for your arsenal, come on you gunners, of recipes for tamales. I have at least other 3 different recipes of tamales in my channel, so go ahead and check those out too, and let me know how would you like to enjoy your corundas. I hope you enjoyed this recipe just like this video, and if you did, please share it with your friends, like, subscribe, and be notified. And for more, follow me on the socials. Adios, amigues.